Okay, welcome back to Disco Elysium. Let's go check this stuff out. People are going to start disappearing at nighttime, but that's okay. Take all this. Lock is rusty, you can't get in. Chair is new, someone lives back there. Someone's been sleeping here recently. 100 tiny feet scurry beneath the grate. The rats of the city. Sandy? Enough coal to last several winters. Smells of chemicals. +1 electrochemistry, -1 reaction speed. $4. I don't know how you get to that apartment. Visual calculus. Ruination has come. The broken arches betray the once grand history of this building. It towered over the harbor until it happened. Form a guess about what happened. A great force from the northeast fired into the city. Heavy artillery shelled the coastline, fired in from the water. A straight shot into Revachol. The tenement acted as a defense wall against the worst shelling until it was destroyed, or until they had a direct firing line. Taking the ocean. The waves of Martinez Inlet rolled over the fallen remains of this building. The dark waters obscured the better parts of the remnants. What didn't fall into the ocean was used as scrapped. What wasn't used as scrapped was thrown into the ocean. Look at the ruins in the water. Those arches act as support for something greater than you see now. Only 3 stories stand where 9 to 12 once did. Restoration has failed. What the shelling took was never rebuilt. Who did this damage? A fleet. The combined armies of the Occident and the Grand with the Mesquite volunteers. A 5-nation army, hundreds of vessels. They amassed airships further down in the Bay of Revachol. Their artillery was so powerful the ships did not only required geoscopic stabilization, they were anchored into the ocean floor as well. Many are still there to this day. If you squint, you could just barely see the shadow in the water, far in the northeast. Cannons ready to placate Revachol. The coalition warship Anchor could shoot 50 shells a minute on 20 co-aligned arches. They will reach the city in 58 seconds. Hey Kim, do you know who shelled our city? The coalition. But that was a long time ago. I think we should move on. It's chilly up here. Trying to get to the freaking thing upstairs. This game won't let me. Guess I'll go out this way. Capeside Apartments. Rue de Saint Ghislain, roundabout north. +1 suggestion, -1 half light. All kinds of clothing shit. Looks like there's more construction here, once decades ago. I don't want to talk to that person. It's going to be like a million-year conversation. Belly of this boat shines like it was recently painted. This wall on the side of the apartment building. Conceptualization. Why am I looking at this wall? +2. In the dim lighting, some things become clearer. Cindy's artistic impulses are infectious. Success. Because this is no ordinary wall, it's sublime. Look at it. Look at the shadows, the colors. Let the conceptual joy flow in your pupils and blossom into your thoughts and in your brain. All other walls on the other houses must make a pilgrimage in adoration of this, the uncontested pinnacle of wallcraft. Color peeled from the very face of God. More. Oh, wall father. Kim, I must paint this wall, even add even more beauty to it. Huh? He sounded tired of it all. Cindy, this girl has all the necessary materials. Talk to her. First, I know you're tired, Kim, but take another look at this wall. Draw nourishment from its beauty. Sure. I must talk to Cindy, get all the necessary materials from her. If you must. So goofy. How do I get up there? Why is this game so mean to me? Balcony? Maybe it's this door. There we go. Hear distant traffic. Night is falling on the city. The bleaker box is full of cigarette butts and electric wires. 15 cents. Curtains shift just a little. Someone is watching from within. Just a door. Nothing to see here right now. Someone's growing rosemary, thyme, and a cactus. 28. Door appears metal and reinforced. Someone really wants to value their security. Number 28. This is where the cleaning lady said the smoker on the balcony lives. Let's see anyone home. Let me save it first, because this game's full of bullshit dead ends. Well, it's not really, but it's just... If I'm going to play this game, I might as well succeed. It seems to me. The doors, I'm 9+ now. This door is made up of metal. Okay, yes. Knock. No one answers. Looks like the young man we're looking for isn't home. I think it's best to catch him to evening. We should return tomorrow after we finish our day's work. How about 2100? Sounds good. What do you mean? The smoker from the balcony. That's why we're here, right? You might know something about the murder. So, 2100? Don't worry. It's almost here. You can still remember this. You got this. Sounds good. 2100. 28. Let's go. Damn. Turns out it's tricky. Don't worry. You'll get them. Look, it is fucking 2100. I don't know why they're so bullshitty. Voices within singing some buoyant dance track. I don't know if we can crowbar that. Alright, well, I got no choice. I guess I go talk to the fucking union rep person, negotiator. Since it looks like I explored most of this upper quadrant. Joyce Meeser, a striker woman leans against you. Leans against the top cabin of her sailing boat, smiling as you approach. Her green raincoat glistens with droplets. A silk scarf is tied around her throat.
Good evening, officers. I'm Joyce.
She extends her hand in greeting.
Joyce L. Messier. I represent the board of Wild Pines, the owners of the harbour. You gentlemen must be from the RCM.
Joyce L. What does the L stand
Lady.
for?
My maiden name.
What gave us away?
Nothing, honestly. I've said it to every drunk in town, and you're the first one who's responded.
Relax, she meant it in jest. Shake her hand.
I'm glad to see you here.
Her grip is cold and tight. Like steel, there is strength there. If she wanted, she could sink her nails deep within your skin.
I was dispatched to handle a strike, not a lynching. Anything I can do to assist the RCM in this matter, I will, gladly.
That is good to hear, madame. My colleague will take the lead on this interview. I should let you know that he is recovering from an unusual medical episode. Very unusual. But I can assure you of his ultimate competency.
That's funny. I wonder if he says that if you, don't tell him that you're, ridiculous. There's a trace of irony in his voice. Mischief, even. This is a tactic. It happens quicker than a shooting star, but what did the lieutenant just wink at you?
How interesting. I wish you a swift recovery. In the meanwhile, you have my full cooperation and the full cooperation of the Wild Pines group.
You're on a boat. Why, yes, I am. She looks at the deck under her feet. Green and white sails flutter overhead. Does she have a name? The boat? No. It is called Coeur de Lat 19 because of the type of sloop it is. What kind of boat is it? It's a pleasure craft, a 19 pacer. It also happens to be rated for Category 1 racing, but these days I mainly use it for business. Do you like it? My sloop? Yeah, I like it a lot. It's the eel's hips, baby. I'm enjoying this part of the interview. It's a little to do with the murder we're investigating. Not a lot of people on boats, are there? Of course there are. We're on an archipelago. How else are you supposed to get around? Wait, we're on an archipelago? Yes, we are. We're on Le Caillou. Technically, the neighboring Ozone and Face La Mer island groups are archipelagos, while Le Caillou, by contrast, is a single fertile landmass, the fourth largest island in the world. It is not an archipelago. Wait, I thought Le Caillou was one big island. Okay, if you want to get technical, the point is we're all on islands here. Any sail is the most expedient way to get from one island to another, especially when you're in a hurry to resolve a strike. Still, I haven't seen anyone else in a boat around here. I haven't seen anyone else driving a souped-up Camrina motor carriage either. Actually, that motor carriage has been specially issued to serve as a patrol and a pursuit vehicle. It's for crossing long distances in the greater Raffichol Industrial Harbor. It's not a toy. Neither is this a toy, I mean. This is a machine for crossing long distances in the Bay of Raffichol, between cities and islands. You need to make this lady admit she's only riding around in a boat because she's rich. Why? Why? Stop thinking. Take her down. It'll come off like I'm envious. And actually, yes, I need to nail her for this. Charge! You got the guns and the ammo. Let's talk about the economics of this boat you're on. Oh, the E word. You mean to say this is a symbol of a conspicuous consumption? That I'm a member of the ruling class? Preciso mundo, class wartime, baby. Detective, may I remind you that Miss Monsieur is a professional negotiator? He doesn't look like he thinks you'll best her in a single combat. Then what does that say? He points to the plaque on the side of the pier. Does it say docking reserve for residents of Rue de Saint Gastille 33A? 33A, this proletarian haunt here. She waves the ruin looming overhead. As I say, plenty of people drive boats, all social strata. Reaction speed. Fire back quick. Knows about revolutionary. It's the heels eels. Revacholi nationhood agrees. Your synapses flash. This house was built before the revolution. Okay, it is anti-centennial. She looks at the building looming overhead. The people who live here now lead a different lifestyle, if you know what I mean. I assure you, they drove quite a hard bargain for the space, but you're right. I'm a bourgeoisie woman, and this is my fast, lightweight, interminably bourgeois boat. Do you have a license for this boat? Of course, I assure you, officer, I'm a highly qualified pleasure craft operator. The crowns of her teeth are porcelain, white as the boat's hulls as she smiles. Her nonchalance might be related to something called the Wayfarer Act, the law that says she doesn't need a license, sly fox. You're not aggressive enough to harass her further on this. I think I can got a handle on the boat thing. Good. Tell me about Wild Pines. What do you do? Well, what we do, I'm afraid I don't speak for Wild Pines as a whole. It's a giant undertaking. There was a touch of discomfort there. She merely wants to represent. So what do they do? The Pines' core competency is logistics, shipping containers, freight, that sort of thing. She points to a small dot on the horizon. See those airships there blinking? Those are the shipping side of things. To the east and toward the harbor, that is the terminal. Another subdivision deals with energy, oil, and gas exploration offshore platforms. The Wild Pines Group is one of the original Revachol Indo-tribes companies awarded royal monopolies by the king himself centuries ago. The king is long gone, but several Indo-tribes remain. Who are the other Indo-tribes? Saint Balbatsi, the LMU, or LUM, an unknown entity known as Brightest Star. You're in good company, it seems. Why, thank you. She does not register the real meaning of the remark. How much money does Wild Pines have? I'm not at liberty to discuss the company balance sheet, but I can tell you that last year's company booked over 20 billion real in revenue. That's it. I thought Wild Pines was supposed to be big time. And to think, the years when the group books losses in the billions. And to think there are years when the group books losses in the billions. A wave hits a sloop. She gasps in the mainstay for balance. Wild Pines employs 72,000 people, all of whom have families that depend on their salaries. It is a tremendous responsibility. Where does Wild Pines get all these billions? They started as an exploration and cargo fleet, conducting trade between the Cimmerian and Insulas 250 years ago, when Pine ships explored the South Siamese and charted the Low Manthian on behalf of the Caesarian. Centuries of care, deliberation, and madness have gone into this endeavor. Vessels pass through the great unrest to re-emerge with apricots in tow. The logic of the system is totalizing. It's everything from its employees to build. It's taken everything from its employees to build it. It probably helps to start with a royal monopoly. You know you're more than you let on. She takes a sip and looks at you afresh. Certainly it helped, but of the original Indo-tribes have failed. Certainly it helped, but most of the original Indo-tribes have failed or have been absorbed to survive. Wild Pines had to grow and adapt. No suzerain did that. Why does such a large system want with a place like this? You mean aside from being the terminal's legal owners? Who is responsible for moving 8% of the world's cargo? She gives you a little smile. Who are responsible for moving 8% of the world's cargo? 8% of all the cargo in the world? That's quite an endeavor indeed. Gained a thought. The 15th Indo-tribe. She nods forcefully. There are no minor cogs in the system. Each terminal must be accounted for, lest the entire system break. Every hiccup in the system demands thousands lose their job. The world over. I'm here to assure that it doesn't happen. What can you tell me about the strike? Everything. Right up to, but not including, trade secrets. Wait, what if I want to hear about trade secrets? First, you'd have to repeal to the Emergencies Act of Trade and Alignments that gives me the right to silence. It's quite the octopus. An octopus, I will slay it. Good luck. It's only been kept in place by the vested interests of half the civilized world, including your own. What the man means is that the Emergencies Act and the RCM both get their authority from the coalition government. You'd be shooting yourself in the foot, in other words. Leave it alone. But I am derailing us. You wanted to know about the strike. What is your role in this precisely? I believe the official title is Senior Labor Negotiator. In practice, I'm a grocery clerk. I relay the union's demand to Wild Pines and and return with Wild Pine's counteroffer. No way. She's more. She can make decisions. And how are the talks going? They're not. That's the problem. The union stopped all negotiations a week ago, after all that awful lynching took place. Wait, what? She just admitted the lynching and the strike are connected. Now they won't even let me into this harbor. There's a 2.2-meter racist behemoth blocking the gates. Oh, you mean Measurehead? Yes. Jean-Luc Measurehead. She leans back and rolls her eyes. So the strike is connected to the lynching. Yes, I believe there is a connection, but that's a subject for later. How are the talks going before the lynching? Let's just say I'm not making the kind of progress I hoped for when I first arrived. And when did you first arrive? I arrived 3 weeks ago, in the middle of February. The bay was still particularly frozen then. I prefer to do these things on site, like the RCM. He looks at his notes. But the strike began in December. I wasn't the original negotiator here. I took over after Mr. Goulamont hit a wall with Mr. Clare, the union boss. Mr. Clare refused to speak with Goulamont despite the concessions he'd granted the union in prior negotiations. This isn't the first time the union has gone on strike. Heavens no. There have been 2 prior strikes. Both times the union won significant concessions, including overtime pay and a medical plan. This time their demands are more, I guess you could say, aggressive. Ludicrous, even, it's meant. What happened to this Gaumont? Mr. Clare told him to, how did he put it? She paused to compose herself. Fuck off, midget. Gaumont is short of stature, you see. Not cool. Keep in mind this is a negotiator Mr. Clare had worked with before, and who was more than fair with him in the union. What are their demands? There are leaflets everywhere and banners. What do they say again? Oh yes, every worker, a member of the board. Most of those workers probably don't even know what it means. Over-aggressive commie posturing. I like it. Then you might also like their other slogan, Demand Democracy. Not hard communist enough for me. I personally agree. It lacks a kind of pizazzo of every worker, a member of the board. What exactly do you mean by it, though? What's the demand? Quite simple, you see. Every time the Wild Plains group makes a decision about what? About anything, really. It needs a signature of each of the 2,200 workers in the Martinez terminal. Just so you understand, this is but one of the 22 terminals owned by Wild Pines. Essentially, not only are they kings of the company, they are also the kings of 72,000 employees of the Wild Pines group. King is dead. Long live the workers. That well may be, but not up to me to decide who's king. But negotiations go, well, but as negotiations go, it's not a swell start. What are you going to do? Well, I'm not sure. Naturally, I assumed that was just their opening position, a hard-nosed tactic with a side of mockery. But there's been no follow-up. Just the same nonsensical slogan repeated over and over again. And now people are getting lynched, I hear, behind the whirling rag, a disaster situation if there ever was one. Excuse me, Lieutenant Notes. Looks up from his notes. From whom did you hear about this lynching? At first I heard it from the bois at the gates, the one whose very name advertises his weak aversion to work. I think it said, "Call me Marina." This checks out. No, wait, the chief negotiator heard it from the man at the gates? Surely the Wild Pines group has a more effective channel of communication. After all, 2,200 people are on strike. This is a big deal for them. The scab at the gate. Did you put them there? The scabs? Oh, you mean the huddled masses of Jamrock come to plead for work where the union refuses to? Don't let her answer it for yourself. Let's call them strikebreakers. Did you put them there? You put them there, right? If these strikebreakers were organized by Wild Pines or its affiliates, then it would be a company secret. I would not share it with you, not at the very least. It's implied she's open to discussing this matter with you at a later occasion. What do you think of Everard? Everard Clare is a man of utmost integrity. If you can say one thing about him, it's that he's always puts his interest of the workers first. Really? Of course not. Everard is fantastically corrupt. I imagine he has a thick, vicious goo where you and I have blood. If you were to prick him with something sharp, you could see it oozing out. A knife, maybe? No, a rapier. Sounds like you were just about to take a rapier to him. Oh, heavens no. We get along just fine. Now that you mention it, I can't stop imagining that black tentacle just dribbling down his double chin. She stops and smiles. That's Everett, all right. He is the most corrupt individual I've ever seen, and I deal with men like him for a living. If there's anyone more venal and more irredeemably nepotistic, then it's his twin brother, Edgar. I remember hearing something about this Edgar. Have you seen him? No. Edgar looks exactly like his brother, except for one lazy eye. He also talks exactly like Everett does. And when one's term as foreman is up, the other one takes over. It's how they circumvent term limits, you see, with a funny little switcheroo. While in office, they've embezzled God knows how much of their workers' dues. What about the union self outside the brothers Clare? The DeBar's union was once a perfectly normal institution, 20 years ago anyway. It must not have been easy to establish under the Emergency Acts, but they did it. I can respect that. She adjusts her hair. Organized labor at its best, they can, as they say. Then something happened. In the local chapter elections, the brothers Clare came and transformed it into a, how do you say? She hesitates, looking for the right expression. A mob. The debauchers are a crime syndicate. Sad as may be, we're forced to cooperate with them. We're flushingly honest, officer. The company has tried appeasing them in the past, but I'm afraid our concessions have only emboldened Everett and his brother. And your opinion, detective? If I may ask, I am curious and a talkative person, you see. Would you say the DeBar's union is... I think they're not really good communists, so... A giant leech sucking the life out of Rivershaw. Indeed, and a hungry one. Sadly, Wild Pines have cooperated with what amounts to a crime syndicate for 2 decades. However much you feed the leech always hungers. One more thing. You said something happened in the elections. I'm glad you asked. There was a woman, a previous foreman of the union. She disappeared. Disappeared? Yes. On the last day of the local chapter elections, her daughter phoned in and said she wasn't running anymore or coming to work. Ever. End of story. This forewoman, her name? Sadly, the company records does not even give a name. She's just a forewoman, and the private correspondence, Holly. I don't even know she had a surname, and I don't have access to the union files. Eerie. Downright haunting, if you ask me. The Wild Pines suspected foul play, but what could they do? It was a union matter. The point of the presentation is these kinds of things happen around Claire's. Watch out when you're dealing with them. Thank you for your concern. We'll be just fine. That's all I needed. Let's change the topic. What can you tell me about this lynching? Quite a few things, I'm afraid. She falls silent for a moment, contemplating something. The information I'm to share with you includes sensitive trade secrets. For the sake of my employer, I have to ask your names and badge numbers. Of course, ma'am. I should have introduced ourselves. This is Lieutenant. I'm Lieutenant Kitsugari from Precinct 57, and this is my colleague from Precinct 41, Detective Dubois. I'm afraid Harry doesn't have his badge at the moment. I hope mine will suffice. Oh, what happened to yours, Detective? She returns the lieutenant's badge and to turn to yours. 'Twas stolen by some artist, surely. Best to pin the blame on them. Everyone knows you can't trust artists. Remember when my partner told you I recently suffered from an unusual medical episode and I lost my badge related to it? I see. Are you saying you lost your badge during the course of this episode? It's possible. After a heavy night of drinking, I lost all memory of my life in the world. Oh dear, she sighs with confusion. Some kind of neoplastic amnesia? I don't even know how to respond. I do believe you, naive as that may sound. I simply can't imagine what you began by faking such a condition. As I said, ma'am, his technique may be unconventional, but he is an officer of the RCM. Of course, I sympathize, but I'm afraid I simply can't share anything more until I've seen that badge. She's a professional negotiator. Hope it's some sort of mutually arranged benefit. Sympathy. I can try it. That's probably not going to work. Failure. Feelings may guide the way. Ma'am, I need to know about this lynching. It is very important to me. It's the case I'm solving. I assure you it's no small matter for me either. We all share the responsibility for disarming the situation. I hope you have a badge for me as soon as possible. You have so much else. I have only this. It is the entirety of my existence. She's silent. The winds of the sails flap around her. This boat, for example, and a home somewhere. I only have this case. Officer. This is the case I will be known by. You know. I don't mean to sound cold, but if you want something, you're going to have to give me something back. More than just guilt. You're doing it despite your own best efforts. You're still going in somehow. I'll be frank with you. If I'm going to break protocol, I need to be able to justify it to my superiors. And they're going to want to see something tangible. Like what? The Union is conducting drug trade out of the harbor. It's an open secret in matinees. Surely it must not come as a complete surprise to RCM either. Perhaps time to look into it? Or you can find your badge, which honestly seems like a lost cause. Detective, a word in private before we continue. Excuse us for a moment. Complete thought. Bow collector. It's early in the morning. The world is dark blue. The sparks light up her face. A delicate composition of triangles. The street seems to grow longer, like in a dolly zoom. And there's something in the air. As you stand there and wave back at the shapes glowing smaller and smaller. Something that has always been there. A great see-through world. The tenderness you feel. The ghost of Revachol between you, carrying your signals. The holy messenger. Plus 3 shivers. The third presence. Accept. Alright. Tune into the city.
This is not going quite as I hoped it would, Detective.
How did you hope it would go? Honestly, I was expecting you to use your unorthodox technique to keep her off balance and not volunteer us to be your henchmen. Oh, so we're your henchmen now. This woman is running circles around us. She might have known about your misplaced badge all along, or she was simply an adept improviser. Either way, we played straight into her hands. Maybe this is all her plan. She might have heard about you. This company must have more ears on the ground. She could have known about my condition. I wouldn't go that far. Her reaction did come off sincere to me. I think she's quick to adapt. She's a professional after all. What do you propose? That we don't investigate the drug trafficking? No. If there's reasonable suspicion, we must investigate. Otherwise, she could claim we're siding with the Union, or that we're on the take. We'd never hear the end of it. What I propose is we ask her. Then we investigate, briefly, but do not share the outcome of this investigation with her. We'll tell her it's done and demand information about the lynching. We could, just find my badge. Oh, that would be fantastic. But do we have the time? The world is large, and your badge is 8 by 6 centimeters. The situation might not have changed drastically by the time you locate it. Time is of the essence. Let's get back to her then.
You're back. Good. What can I help you with?
Okay, tell me about this alleged drug trafficking. It's quite straightforward. Someone's using Terminal B to smuggle raw ingredients from the Cimarron Insula into Rivachol with the Union's blessing, while Pines has suspected it for years. Ingredients for what, ma'am? Meth, dextroamphetamine, GPL, and various synthetic and psychedelics. Honestly, it might be quicker to say what you can't make from this stuff. Let me get this straight. The materials come from Samara to Rivachol through the terminal. Yes. And after they clear the terminal, we lose track. The actual production is taking place at various sites in and around Jamrock Quarter, north of here. While Pines seems to be doing Seems to be well apprised of the local drug trade, ma'am. Do you mean to say the union also produces the product, sells drugs, I mean? We're in logistics. It's our business to know. And no, as far as the company knows, the union does not produce it. They transport the ingredients for a cut. And you want us to investigate. Yes, but you won't get anything about Everett and the Dark Workers Union still. Every chain has a weak link. The handoff, the motor, lorries, the roundabout. The lorries. Precisely. Someone needs to move the ingredients from the harbor to the city. Once they reach Jamrock, they distribute it to a local network of local manufacturers well beyond our grasp. But in transit, they're vulnerable. How convenient that they're stranded like beached whales on a roundabout. Perhaps you've noticed that a number of lorries are tangled in a traffic jam at the roundabout just now. Interview the drivers who are still hanging about. One of them might be waiting for a crucial shipment. She gives you a knowing look. Her eyes are lit green like the rivers of Esperance in bright daylight upstream where it's cleaner. I'll be explicit. If you find this driver, I will share company secrets with you. Uncovering the union's secrets gives you an upper hand when dealing with them. Why didn't you come? Oh, wait. It's no coincidence the lawyers are stranded there like that. No, we asked East Motor Tract to raise the drawbridge. The company wrote as a partner of one of our subsidiaries. However, there's a limited time opportunity. Once the complaint has been processed by the trade committee, they'll have no choice but to lower the drawbridge, and the operation will continue. Thousands of liters of raw ingredients will pour into the streets of Rivershaw. Not the east across the river, but the west, the vulnerable, weary. Well, at least this solves one mystery. What is that, Lieutenant? Why I had to call it the East Motor Tract and beg them to open the drawbridge for me. I'd wondered since I first drove in on my motor carriage. Sorry for the inconvenience, Lieutenant Kasagari, but we needed them trapped there. This is a unique opportunity. I'm sure you understand. Why did you come to the RCM earlier? We did, on more than one occasion. Apparently there's some sort of inter-precinct disagreement about whose jurisdiction this area falls under. We know the company has launched its own probe into the union's alleged involvement. We also know it came up empty. It's not the RCM. No one's been able to find any hard evidence. Well, here's your chance, officers. What proof do you have that union's involved? How do you think they're financing this strike? There are thousands of unpaid dock workers are going strong for the fourth month straight. There was a shakedown of local businesses preceding the strike. Many were squeezed to bankruptcy to fund it. With all due respect to these desert cacti, the contents of a few cash registers cannot provide for 2,000 men. The local businesses can scarcely provide for themselves. So you think the strike is being funded with source ingredients for drugs? Precisely. Smuggled out of that very gate at night, most likely. Then loaded into lorries and driven to Jamrock. You simply need to find one driver who will open up to you. We've already suspicions that one of the drivers was present at the lynching. Two might have even been connected. Or not. You have to have evidence to the contrary. Though if you have evidence to the contrary, I'm eager to hear it. As eager as I am to share it, Lieutenant, once the job is done. Okay, I've made up my mind about the smuggling investigation. Yes? We'll take this case, probe the driver, see what it yields. Excellent. According to my reports, there are at least 3 lorry drivers linking in the roundabout. Hopefully one of them will know something. It may come to nothing, or may just blow the case wide open. I can keep the drawbridge up for a few more days at least. You should have time you need. In the meantime, let me know if there's any other way of maybe assistance. Do you know anything about these tattoos? That's the man who was killed. I'm afraid this is a discussion for once we've cleared the lynching question. So you know something about the tattoos. Better not tie the forestay to the backstay on this. Hope there's something else I can discuss with you. By the way, I've already talked to Evard Clare. You have? And how did you like Mr. Clare? He's a beautiful man. Beautiful and just. Hero to the workers' movement. He's a champ. He's the champion I've sworn fealty to. He's a beautiful man. And just. Just? In what way? In a nice, crunchy, white working class kind of way, of course. He's not actually just, is he? He's useless. Oh, come down. He has his uses. How else would he have stayed in power all these years? Oh, wait, actually, she answers her own question. Corruption, that's how he's done it. Fantastic. Worm-like corruption, reaching to the bowels of the earth. My position of my unusual colleague does not reflect the official policy. I hope you understand. The RCM does not pick sides. Of course, I don't expect you to share anything he told you with me. I am not a corrupt worm myself. He turns to you. However, if you felt like discussing something, how could I stop you? Are we not human? Are we not curious to hear each other's tale? It's only natural. It would only be gossiping. Intellectually speaking, it would be quite interesting what she has to say about these things. It's probably a really bad idea to tell her this. She's helping me find my gun. Oh, that's helpful of him. The tent looks at you, and you can swear his jaw is trembling. He's able to contain his anger and surprise. Unconventional police officers sometimes lose their guns, and they go around telling people about this to gauge their reaction. It's all part of detecting. Incredible. Simply incredible. How's it going? Has this detecting produced a gun? Mr. Everett says it's almost ready to be found soon. Oh, did he now? Well, it should be any day now. Unless, of course, he's lying to you. Anyway, is there anything else you've heard? I'd rather talk about something else. Of course, detective. Something should come up down the road. Don't be afraid to drop by for a chat. You seem very smart. I need someone to give me a lowdown about this reality we're in. This reality? She purrs her hood close around her neck. Yes, reality is your side case. An experimental side case. I am conducting a personal investigation of the world I find myself in. How truly curious. Or sort of philosopher detective. My theory is this inquiry into the nature of reality will ultimately converge with our murder investigation. They are really one and the same. Are they now? A deep synthesis. I'll assist you however I can. Go ahead, ask. All right. We're in. I know all these look good, but begin with the first, okay? Where are we? In Martini's Bay. In Martini's, baby. Baby. A casual term of endearance popular among the 50-plus crowd. A disco holdover. Pay no heed. I'm a disco holdover myself. Aren't we all? She refers to your corresponding ages. And what is this Martinez? Martinez is a district of Revachol. A very small district tucked away in the industrial harbor, north of 881 in Jamrock. You would be excused for not knowing about it. Unimportant, they say. Forgotten even. Shelled to smithereens during the revolution. Has its charm, just not this time of year. Tell me more about Martinez. I'm not a good ambassador. I've only been here once as a teenager. Not a lot has changed. There are ruins, terminals, fishing boats, reeds, boys with boxy shoulders. This place used to be a province, a workers' resort for the city. You swallowed it. And the artillery did its work. The reeds and the real star of the show is here now. Further down the coast, the water gets. You mentioned a sea. What sea is this? It's not really a sea. It's the Bay of Revachol. The bay feeds into the ocean. Are we near an ocean? Yes. We're on an island. We are on an island in an ocean, the world's largest body of water, the Insula Dick. What's the name of this island? Kalu, as you already know. Imagine a pebble, smooth over pebble amidst a great blue sea, misshapen crack. The cracks of the river Esperance. We're in the middle of the Delta River on the sixth branch in the Martinez distributary. It is clear this pebble is of enormous value to her, and humanity at large. Okay, that's Martinez. What of Revachol? Revachol is what you call a city. What kind of city is Revachol? A great kind. What makes Revachol great? History detective. They built a city to resolve history. Our part in it, at least, are centuries. Okay, who built the city? The nations of the Occident, or immigrant workers from Samine and Elysium, depending on your creed. When was it built? In the Deoxan century, 380 years ago. And why will it resolve history? They say this is where the terrible questions of our time will be answered. Tensions are highest and the fault lines deepest. By that I mean conflicts, ideological conflicts, stuff of men. Why here? We are standing on a fertile, self-sufficient island, able to sustain up to 200 million people in the middle of the Insular Ocean, in the world's connective tissue. This is where the money is. So we're pretty much in the center of the world. Oh, we're quite a way off. About, she points across the water, skyscrapers arise. Spark of lights rise on the horizon, like evening stars above the curvature of the planet. 22 kilometers from the center of the world. That soldering iron is the bank of the world building. The bottom floors are Intercom, coalition government. Insulated mission command. Silence. She lowers her hand. The water, the light. It's as though you're just seeing it for the first time. That is no recognition. Only the immensity of the sea, the cold radiating from it. Where are we? We are where we are. I have no truer answer to give, unfortunately. She watches you closely as you scan the horizon. Gamed. Jamas vu. Derealization. Revachol Special Administrative Region, Laku, the Inland Ocean, Coalition Government, into the Mission Command. Name after name, none of them is familiar. They all seem real, but something is wrong. You feel like a kid looking at stickers on the fridge, true from the Apricot Company, World Games 34. You can almost see your hand reaching up for them, scratch the corners if you peel loose. They feel almost important, most important thoughts, but the one you must truly complete. 15th Indo-Tribe. Wild Pines, Field, Cooperus, Tricentennial, Veers. The names of the Revachol Indo-Tribe spring into your head. Set loose by the mention of Wild Pines, Royal Monopolies, Octopus, Swordfish. Most of them are gone now. Blah, 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 blah. Isn't one missing? Wait, no. Oh, there are only 14. Then how do you feel about... Then why do you feel like there was a 15th Indo-Tribe? This is the one thought you need to complete. Where are you? Well, is there something else you wanted to know? I remember hearing about a lowdown. This has been informative. Thank you, ma'am. I'm sure my memory-impaired partner has many more questions to ask about even more fundamental aspects of reality. Might I suggest not asking them all right now? Madame Messier will be here later, too, and tomorrow. Isn't that true, ma'am? Absolutely. My commitment here is long-term. But won't I be lazy if I didn't do it all now? Of course not. You're already diligent for getting this far, and diligent boys need to remember where they left off. Indeed, I am always at your service. What times are these? These are unimportant times, detective. You and I were born after the dust has settled a thousandth of a second too late. Too late for what? For the big time. Her eyes light up, and there's a flash of teeth. What's the big time? The revolution, she says. Ha. And what is it about this revolution I keep hearing about? It's quite easy. Every 100 years or so, our species gets together to decide what's next. Who gets shot in the head and who gets mineral rights. It's a real kerfuffle. Who got shot in the head? Those would be the communists, generally speaking. 40 million people got shot in the head during the War Revolution. The communists, they all got shot in the head. And the anarchists, too. They got shot as well. So well, one forgets they even existed. She likes the totality of it. You could say they totally got shot in the head. Indeed, they piled them up in mass graves in the ozone. Well, that's the last one you heard of those. Did the communists and the anarchists shoot back? Did they ever? Before they got shot themselves, they shot 2 million people. Sounds like they should have shot more people in the head then. This does not represent the official RCM opinion, the lieutenant says from behind his notes. Don't worry, Kraz. Muffakat shot 15 million people in the head. That was all the way down in the ground. Anyone else got shot in the head on the opposing side? Oh, lots of people. Even the king got shot in the head, or thrown beneath the horse, or drowned. Off accounts differ. It was unceremonious. She shakes her head. Just as well. He wasn't actually a king. He was the king's nephew. The real king abdicated and lived out a long, productive life as a venture capitalist in the ground. Cowardly king. I prefer the term risk-adverse. King Guillemot was nobody's fool. He could smell a PR disaster brewing. He got out alive, and his nephew Frizzle got shot in his place. Him and 10,000s of wonderfully fascist kingsmen. It was a wild time. Who got the mineral rights? The liberals got the mineral rights. She looks up in the sky, and by mineral rights, I mean everything. Okay, and by liberals you mean liberals are usually the middle class people, detective, or the remaining gentry, the beneficiaries of the pre-revolutionary arrangement, some of which were rich enough to stay. With the Constitution, with the monarchy, big mistake. Others bet on the revolutionary. And they were called ultras or ultra-liberal. They fared well. Did the liberals win it all? They didn't win it so much as survive. We were the last ones standing when the war ended. Everyone got shot in the head, remember? She's one of them, of course. If everyone got shot, who was there to surrender to? The foreign intervention, the coalition. Those people really took the mineral rights. Wait, you just said the liberals took everything. The liberals took everything that wasn't nailed to the ground. The coalition took the ground. The ocean, the laws, and the people. Who were the coalition? The coalition of nations. Grand Mesquite, Vesper, Messina, Orange, Sur la Chef, La Clef. The armed center of the world. They landed here and ended the revolution. It was the moralist thing to do. Moralist? The moralists believe in keeping everything exactly the way it is. They believe in mineral rights, not shooting people in the head. At least not in the same manner and volume as the others do. They are long-standing provincial rules of Revachol now, the coalition government. This is their special administrative region. They embolden the RCM with crumbs of the law, same law they took, technically speaking. Technically speaking, you are a moralist. The color of moralism is blue, the official motto of the Moralentian, the Moralist International. A blue forget-me-not is a piece of gray sky. Unofficial, for a moment, there was hope. I don't think I'm a moralist, ma'am. Of course. It's not easy to be modest about head shooting in your line of work. Rudy Tooty Point and Shooty. That's the way of history. So when was this kerfuffle? Turn of the century revolution? Don't answer, it's a trick question. The revolution began in '02 on the Greenish Insula, and though by the end, nearly the whole world had got involved. Who started it? It wasn't a who, but a what. A pandemic of SARS. A particularly virulent prion disease, which the authorities in the Grand proved unable to contain. Then Mazarov came along and overthrew the government. What does Tazaroth do? It made people overthrow governments. Wow, really? Of course not. It was a highly infectious microorganism that destroyed the brain tissue. Actual causes of the revolution were material. The pandemic only provided the spark. It was a funny time in history. They discovered transistors, rock music, but they didn't know anything about prions. Nobody did. Where did it spread from there? From Revachol and the Grand? Not far. The world managed to cauterize itself. Maz's government was overthrown in '08, and the coalition crushed Revachol commune 2 years later. It was the end. What came next? Why, you and I, officer. She spreads her arms, and the arms, raincoat flapping in the wind. Our lives in the special administrative region. What's a special administrative region? A state city divided into free market zones under the everlasting integrum of the coalition of nations, and, of course, the citizens' militia. The special administrative region is a third incarnation of Revachol. After the failure of the suzerain and commune, what happened to the rest of the world? Modernity. They developed into marvels of this interlicenary communications, telematic milieus, radiation, colored plastics. Meanwhile, in Revachol West, the aftermath continues for over a fifth decade. 51 minus 8 equals 43. Wait, you're saying it's been like this for 43 years? Time flies. What have we been doing all this time? The 20 saw a decade of urban war. West of the river leveled, offshore platforms in flames. It's regarded as an improvement of what came before. '08 to '19 was simply hell. And after that, the 30s, things settled down in the 30s. Revachol East transformed itself into the world's largest tax haven with international community's blessing. For the first time in a long time, it seems like things were going somewhere. All that untaxed income must have fueled the new. The one thing can mean. And that's when they discovered disco. Yes. And quantitative easing. It was a market mirage, unfortunately. The 40s dispelled it. An insular-wide hangover, you might say. So here we are. Get a lowdown on reality, plus 70. Welcome to reality, baby. And which side will was Wild Pines Group on? They picked the winning side, which is why they're here and others not. They chose wisely. Perhaps it wouldn't have turned out that way if I had been in charge. I might have been on the king and led the Pines to doom. Would you have sided with the king? I would have sided with the cannons. If you see the caliber of those things, you might have too. Perhaps it was better I was born where I was. 10 of 14 Indo tribes got it wrong. Field, Hoops, Tricentennial. I suppose I would have been in good company. What would have you done differently? Good question. What would you... She cranes her neck. What would you have done differently? I would have sought medical solutions. Sounds like Tazaroth drove these people mad. Cold creeps up your spine, reaching its tendrils up your neck towards the back of your head. So a quarter of humanity simply lost their minds. How would you stop a prion, a complex folding protein, on life, with technology 50 years ago? With some hygiene, modest social care, and perhaps a little research program. The wild stops, and for a moment there's silence. The charge dissipates into the dark water. All is quiet with the Martinis inlet. Dog barks. A gunshot echoes off the walls. In some distant buildings, a woman's voice. There's peace in the heart. Good hygiene, really. A very moderate solution to an extreme problem. It's a sort of half measures the doomed authorities in Grand. When they failed to step up, Mazov and his party stepped in. In this particular case, maybe a more robust state response might have been appropriate. Opinions expressed here do not reflect official position of the RCM. And what is your official opinion, Lieutenant? My position, ma'am? My parents got ripped to shreds in the revolution. I would have gone the same way. I was saved by being 2 years old. That's my position, the abattoir. What would you have done differently? I would have killed more. 40 million if that's what it took. I see. 1/10 of humanity. The key to history is in the lock. Keep turning it at any cost. At any cost. Until humanity is free and the age of capital is past. Past. That is... What's that? What... That's what Devore, the leader of the Comrades, said before she got a bullet in her head. Don't get me wrong. Capital is finished, but understand this. Its end won't free anyone. It will only lead to more suffering. That's enough about the times. They are what they are. Who knows? The afterbloom may yet come. Anyway, enough sentimentality. Is there anything else you wanted to know? These are white checks. Think of something close to you. RCM can access IPC database. Authority comes to coalition. Chem debrief done. Failure. Reach for something fundamental. Failure. I want to know what you are. She won't maneuver her way out. What are you? I am the vilest of the vile, a traitor, a devourer of nations and infidels. I'm an ultra. She raises the corner of her mouth, smirking, revealing a canine. Wait, what's an ultra? An ultra-liberal is a type of liberal from the revolution. It's not the moderate kind. Cool. I'm pretty liberal hard myself. No, not like me. I am neither creature of forbidden swamp who pushed the king under a shit wagon and betrayed a revolution. You are liberated enough to offer up your home Are you liberated enough to offer up your home on a plate for financial colonists? No, I think not. Tell me, now that I've uncoiled myself, do you find me frightening? I forgive you, but only because you're charming. A Duvler, she pronounces, who is being of great charm and guile, sneaketh beneath the homes of Gadile. That is a dialect of Ubisoft. You recognize the quote from where the play written way back in the Forogenian centuries and persuades them to addict themselves to this service. You may remember more than you let on, despite whatever brain damage alcohol may have inflicted. Vaudeville. Shake her head slowly. I hope you're able to continue as friends, despite my deeply felt need to infiltrate and betray the revolution, and then ensnare you in financial service. Sauvos. Honestly, I may have preferred it had the communists won. Who knows? They may have really built something better, but they didn't because they lost. Then when the dust settled, the liberals were the only ones left to clean up the mess. By virtue of their survival, they were handed enormous power to shape the future, and all this is all our last generation managed. Would you have done something differently? With due respect to our overlords, the eternal caretaker government, and that keeps the Martinez a monument to the efficiency of its artillery, while a gentle wind sweeps the streets and the rebuilt east, light drizzle washing it clean, lights go up and a motor carriage circulates its tracks. I would not have relinquished sovereignty to the coalition, not here in Martinez, not in the Stella Moise or Delta beachheads either, if not for my own sake. She realizes her small, cold fists are clenched. She looses them. Then for my daughters. We had an obligation to defend our sovereignty. We should have burned down the whole insula down rather than let them have it. You're a patriot. Yes, I suppose I am, but I wouldn't be a patriot anywhere but here. Seditious talk, ma'am. You're a smart woman. Perhaps my intellectual vanity will be my undoing. You're no dummy yourself. No, or intellectual vanity will be my undoing, and the crown will land on your head as they lay in the casket. Do you have daughters? Yes. Whatever else I am also a mother and a wife. Now shall we return to reality? What is this? Spread your hands. A bird? A sphinxid? A flightless bird of the polar regions? Keep guessing. Some sort of krill hunter? You're an ancient ruin, a symbol of hubris and decay, half submerged in some salty sea. Are you saying I'm ruined? Of course you're not, my dear. I'm just terrible at guessing games. I meant, what is this place here? This is the pier of Rue de Saint Galaxie, 33A, where the tenants have been kind enough to let me rent a slot or two. What is this? It's a pre-revolutionary tenement. Old buildings are called tenements, you see. New buildings are called battements. And after less battements nouveaux. But 33A and 33B are not nouveaux, they're old. She looks up at the crumbling facade. This one used to be 8 to 10 stories tall, a real high-rise by the standards of the last century, built to mirror the skyscrapers across the Bay of the Delta. It was for the war, of course. Who lived in them? Mostly the urban class, I believe. It was once a primo real estate before the cannons flopped 4 or 5 stories off. Split splat! From a dilapidated balcony, the young girl in the odd clothes gives Joyce the evil eye, a red paintbrush held to her throat. You could be wrong, but from here it appears as if she's running a brush across her throat in a swinging sawing motion. Wonderful. What is that? Point to Cindy the Skull. The girl in the old lady rags? Yes. She looks like a sullen, rebellious member of the teen infraculture. Infraculture? Yes. You and I belong to the supraculture. We're common. The herd. Music on the radio, the food in the chain restaurant, those are all too popular for the girl in the old lady rags. She prefers a fantasy world, an infraculture with its own dress code and vernacular. It's an illusion, I'm afraid. There is no refuge from the superculture. Okay, now explain the same thing, but to a child. Young people who dye their hair funny colors and wear old people's clothes are stupid, and their little rebellion is self-defeating. Alright, what's next? Suddenly you're not so sure you're part of the superculture. I think I may be part of the infraculture. And what would that be? Disco. I can see that, yes. I dabbled in those dark arts myself not so long ago. I I assure you, it was a thoroughly supercultural phenomenon, all permeating, downright mandatory. Nothing infra about disco, baby. Are you disco? Those days are long behind me. She looks inland with a sarcastic wistfulness. And even in the early 30s, I would say I was still of a new girl. Disco was a minor and still enjoyable fest. Fast this whole thing for me. The new, a cultural era, and the name of the decade it ravished, the 30s. It came out of the post-revolutionary revival. It was ultra-liberal. It involved lots of partying, as you might imagine, and champagne colored everything. By the looks of it, it would have been around when you came of age. Now, I'm straight edge. Of course, you're much more grounded. Serious detective call on a case called Reality. Speaking of, is there anything else? That's all for now. Got some more questions about Reality. That's all for now. Thank you. That's all for now. Take care, detective. God damn. That's a long ass conversation. Your room in the whirling isn't much bigger than the sloop. This is worth more than you'll ever earn in your life. Alright, it's a good stop point. Thanks for watching. See you next time.